All right. Once again, thank you for joining us today. We are going over the Viper Mini. It's the newest pre-treatment machine to hit the market. Feel free to pop in and write any questions at any time. We'll answer those as they are pertaining to what we're talking about. And make sure, at least by the end of our webinar here, that we do have every answer answered. And yeah, we'll get right into it. Well, everybody, thanks for joining today. We're going over to introduce the newest pre-treatment machine on the market. It's the Viper Mini, and it's really freaking cool. We're really excited about it. Feel free to ask any questions during the presentation, and we will get those answered as they are pertaining to what we're talking about. But we will make sure by the end of the presentation that everybody's answers get answered. And also be sure to watch all the way through because we are giving away a free gallon of pre-treatment solution of choice, either the light, dark, or ultra. So give it back to Brian.
All right. Appreciate everybody joining us here for the webinar. We are talking about our newest pre-treatment machine, the Viper Mini. It is incredibly small, compact, and powerful. And we'll be going over just about every aspect of the Viper Mini. And we wanted to talk about a few things here. And if I don't check my notes, I will forget some stuff. Dean talked about the ground rules, I guess you could say. If you have questions, feel free to jump in, type in the question. He can jump in and relay those to me. And we'll work through this and just want to make sure everybody has a good understanding of how this great little machine can help out your shop. I guess first, the big question is, oh, it's another pre-treat machine. Who's this good for? It really is great for the very beginner or newbie DTG printer. And with that, we understand that there's a lot of costs associated with starting a direct-to-garment printing business. You have your printer and the heat press and everything. And a lot of times people tend to skimp on the pre-treatment side of things. Now, pre-treating is 80%. It's out of all the issues associated with direct-to-garment, we estimate it's around 80% of the issues relate back to pre-treatment or improper pre-treating or anything to do with the pre-treatment in general. And getting that good foundation in for your print to sit on top of the shirt is vital to you being successful in direct-to-garment. So what we're trying to do is help out the newbies, the small shops, maybe even those that are spraying with a hand sprayer and need to upgrade, or somebody that even has a really limited space to do their direct-to-garment printing and don't have room for another bigger machine in their bedroom or small work area. The Viper Mini is a great tool to help you improve your direct-to-garment prints at a minimal cost and still give you that repeatability that is essential to making your direct-to-garment business a success. So with that out of the way, we wanted to talk a little bit about what are the benefits to the Viper Mini. Well, first of all, as you can see, it is incredibly small. It is actually small. You know what we need is a good comparison, Dean? Do we have? Oh, we do. I have it down below. So most people would end up using a standard power sprayer type setup like this. You fill up your container, spray your shirt, and this works. I'm not going to knock this aspect. It's better than trying to roll it onto the shirt or do something else. But as you can see in a size comparison setup, these two, this is actually smaller and easier to use and will be more consistent than a hand sprayer. So the size and the ability of the Viper Mini to be able to adjust the spray height up and down so you can go from a left chest all the way up to a full chest is key, as well as it being self-propelled so that the unit will roll across the shirt as you're spraying at a consistent speed. And that speed is controlled here with our digital interface that actually allows you to adjust the speed up and down. Now, the great thing with that is that allows you to more precisely apply the correct amount of pre-treatment to the shirt every time. When you're hand spraying, you have no idea exactly how much pre-treatment that you're actually applying to the garment. And the whole foundation, again, of direct-to-garment printing and being successful is getting that pre-treatment applied correctly and applying the correct amount. So what the Viper Mini does is it takes away all the variability or variables associated with hand spraying and puts it right into a small, compact little unit that when you're done spraying for the day, you clean it out and you can just put it on the shelf under the table and reclaim your workspace for whatever else you have to do. Even if you're just doing this on your kitchen table, you could get away using this right in your kitchen, small bedroom. Again, it does not require much space. So that is probably one of the biggest things that I would say the Viper Mini as far as benefits is it is a major step up from hand spraying and will perform incredibly well to help you increase the reliability of your pre-treated shirts from shirt to shirt and order to order every day of the week. That consistency is key to direct-to-garment printing. And it's easy to use and take care of. That is the beauty of it. And we will go through the complete unboxing to show you how to, what comes in the kit, as well as what is, and how to put it together. One of the other bigger benefits with this here is because you have more control over the application of the pre-treatment on the garments and being able to apply either just for a left chest or a full chest, you're going to waste less pre-treatment. This is going to end up actually being, if anybody's used a Wagner power sprayer, you'll know what I'm saying. It just gets everywhere. And to be honest, we are sort of like the black sheep of the direct-to-garment family because nobody likes to pre-treat. It's period. It's just, it's not fun. It's typically messy. It's a necessary evil to do direct-to-garment. So this actually takes a lot of that out of the equation, as do all of our pre-treatment machines. And for the newbie or somebody that wants to step up for more consistency from hand spraying, this is a great unit to do that with. So and again, I guess we could go to the comparability to the hand sprayer. A lot of people, and we've heard this quite a bit on the forums and just online and questions and emails, is that this is just a glorified hand sprayer. To the untrained or somebody who's not familiar with the process, I could see how that potentially could be said. The biggest thing is that this unit here is not handheld. Yes, you hold it like this to activate it and guide it down the shirt, but everything else remains consistent. Your spray height is consistent. The application and the speed at which it goes down the shirt is consistent. Whereas with this, and you're trying to overlap and do multiple passes and this and that, you have no idea how much pre-treatment you're actually putting onto a shirt. And again, knowing that information is key to actively and reliably getting great direct-to-garment prints. Plus, the pump that we use is the same. It's a Swiss-made pump specifically for us that we use in this unit, as well as our bigger pre-treatment machines. So it is a very heavy-duty pump It is not going to, a lot of pumps will pulsate, which if you look at the spray patterns as they spray down the shirt, you can actually see the spray pulsing. And that's providing inconsistencies within the shirt itself, especially on much lower gram of applications of pretreatment on the garments. So I guess with that, that would be the biggest comparison and difference between, you know, being a glorified hand sprayer. This is anything but, and it was, I guess, one of my old acquaintances from way back in the early mid 2000s, he said the same thing. And then once he actually saw it in use, he goes, oh my God, now I get it. And hopefully that's what we'll be able to show you today here. So again, making it consistent, repeatable for you. You know, as long as you can produce great quality DTG shirts and make your customers happy, that should generate more repeat business and spread word of mouth. That's really what the Viper Mini is designed to do, is give people that ability to repeatably create a great foundation for their direct-to-garment prints. So I guess we can get into a lot more here very soon with the unpacking and everything. We get a lot of questions on the usability of the machine itself. Okay. On top, we have the activation button that triggers the drive wheel and the spray itself. So it'll start spraying and moving as soon as you press the button. The handle here is just for guiding the pretreatment machine down the shirt, and the adjustability up and down. So that really tends to make it easy. I mean, it's a very simple unit. We've tried to keep it simple, yet give the ultimate, I guess, in the ability to do pre-treating correctly. So I guess we could just jump right in. Do we have any questions from anybody at the moment in regards to this?
Yeah, I had a question actually. It was okay. We have a question. Can you use it outside?
You could use it outside if you want. It runs off of a 120 volt connection, but it's a 12 volt power supply, as you can see here. So you would just need to be able to run a cable outside a power line, just like you would with a Wagner hand sprayer itself. And basically we can pull from our container of pre-treatment here. We've got our line into it, into the pre-treat machine. So that makes it easy to use. So yes, you could use it outside. Are there any other questions there? Not at the moment. Okay. Well, I tell you what we'll do. We will set this aside. We'll show you the box and unboxing of everything so that you can get a good idea of what comes in the unit itself. And then we'll show you how it actually works. So the beauty of this is actually, this is the entire size of the box itself. As you can see here, it is basically ships it ships UPS. So shipping is inexpensive. And we've got this set up, if I can get this out of here correctly without hurting myself.
Hey, Brian, we actually have one more question here. Do you have to clean it after every use?
Yes. Cleaning of any pre-treat machine, highly recommended. You want to make sure that you do not leave the pre-treatment sit in the machine or in the nozzle tip area. It can gum it up, but I'll show you the clean out on this. It is super easy. You can do it literally within 30 to 45 seconds, less than a minute typically, because it does not take that long. Remember, keep the machine happy. It's going to give you a lot of reliability over the time that you're trying to do your DTG printing. So hopefully as you grow your business, you can upgrade to other machines. But yes, it's like taking care of the oil in your car. Make sure that you flush this bad boy. Otherwise, people that don't do that, end up, oh, it's spraying sideways. Well, you left pre-treatment in the machine and it dried on the tip and it's causing it to spray at an angle. So yes, you should clean it. So this is our retail box for the Viper Mini. As you can see, it's very small. It's lightweight. I believe it only weighs about 14 pounds in shipping. And basically, when you open the box up, take our foam out of the way, we have our quick start guide, which is several pages long. It's not really that difficult, but it does show you how to go through, put together the machine itself, as well as it has our handy dandy spray laydown guide based on the spray height and the speed at which the machine's running. So you can target specific application amounts. If you need 15 grams of pre-treatment or 20, 22 grams, that is all within this guide. So you'll want to save this. And we do have this on our website as a PDF in case you do lose it, because I know how that is. I actually had to do that the other day. I couldn't find one, so we just went to the website and downloaded it. On top of that, we have our box here that has our power cords, the handle, and the fluid supply line and the sheathing that is used to bind the fluid supply and the power to the machine. So we'll pull these out. There are also some zip ties in here that we will get to here in a little bit so that you can see what those are used for, as well as our power cord and the handle for the machine itself. Now, we do ship the machine with, let's pull some more of this out of here. This is the foam pallets that we will use for laying down on the table. It does come rolled up. If you take it out, you can lightly heat press it just to smooth it out. And you will want to use this. It really helps the shirt grip so that the machine doesn't pull the shirt up under when it's trying to run. So we'll set that off to the side for right now. And every unit comes with a quart of our Image Armor Ultra and our Image Armor Light Shirt pre-treatments to help get you started, as well as some cleaning solution. Now, somebody had asked earlier, do we need to clean this every day? Yes. What we recommend is running hot water through the Viper One at the end of every day. And you can actually save the pre-treatment that's in the system in line. But you don't want to leave that pre-treatment in there. So flush with hot water, and then you can actually evacuate the water if you want or leave it in. We do recommend running the clean solution through the Viper and pretty much every pre-treatment machine that's out there at least once a week, and then flushing that with water. This will help break down anything that's sort of trapped inside the lines of the pre-treatment machines. So this is highly recommended to use at least once a week and then flush with hot water. So we'll set those off to the side.
Brian,
yes,
we have another question here. Do you have to use Image Armor pre-treatment?
I would like you to, but it is not necessary. You can actually spray pretty much any pre-treatment through the Viper Mini, any of the pre-treatments that are out there. We do know that the Epsom polyester pre-treatment is super thick, and I actually took a call yesterday on that. They had a problem with another pre-treatment machine. It was not one of ours, and they said it wasn't spraying very well. We did some testing and tried a bunch of stuff with ours. We knew that it varied the spray pattern a lot, but outside of that, pretty much any of the pre-treatments will work in the Viper Mini. So this here we just pulled out. This is our spit cup, which we will use for filling and cleaning out the Viper. This right here, boop, is also what we call our safety pack. It's an extra spray tip and filter / check valve. This you will want to keep in a safe place because eventually the spray tip will wear, or you'll leave pre-treatment on it and it'll dry, get hard, and cause it to spray weird. And the spray valve. These are consumable items, so we decided to give extras so that you would not be down. So if and when you do have to replace these, you can actually just order replacement parts so you have them on hand, because if your pre-treatment machine's down, you're going to be down too, which means you're not going to be printing shirts, which means you're not going to be making money. And you bought the direct-to-garment printer to make money. So that's what we're trying to help you do with that. So remember the extra spray tip and check valve to hang on to that. We'll set our cup off to the side, and a little toothbrush that can be used to gently brush off the spray tip during cleaning, and it'll help keep things going. If you need to use it for your own teeth, do that, but do not pre-treat and then brush your teeth. I'll just say that. All right. Then we have our power supply. This is just a 12-volt power supply that is plugged into our electric cord here. And then last but not least, we have the Viper Mini itself. Now, the Mini, when you first get it, the spray nozzle and tip will be all the way down. The spray tip is already installed, and we have a question. Oh, okay. He's going to switch over here so we can actually show this. It is already set up. The spray tip is in, and it is a quick release, so you can actually quarter twist this, pull the tip out, as well as the check valve. So that makes this very easy to change out when needed. As you can see here, we can actually adjust this up to about the 14-inch wide spray mark, gently tighten this back in, and that is set for that. Now, to install the handle, it is really easy. It's just like screwing in a bolt. Just keep going until it tightens up, and then give a little snug to it, and basically this is ready to go. Now, what we will need to do is take our power cord and join it up with our fluid supply line. So we'll try to do this here without much ado to show you how easy this is. We don't need that. We've got our power supply line, and we have our fluid line here that we will use for feeding from whatever pre-treatment solution that we are using. In this case, we're going to be using the Image Armor. And what we're going to do is take these and mate up, if you switch back over to this camera here, mate up into our shroud here, our sheathing, and we'll get this started. And this can be a little tricky, even for me, because I am not the expert guru at this. But you can see here, we'll pull this through, and then we'll place our power line also inside the same unit here and do this. So we want to make sure that these are about the same length. So this and this one here for the fluid supply line, and the power input is about the same length. Then all we need to do is continue basically putting this into the sheathing all the way down. And again, I have fat fingers, so I am not very good at this. Let's do this. My technicians are actually much better at this than I am. There we go. And
Brian, we do have a question here.
Yeah.
Is the sheathing required? I mean,
it is not required, but I will show you why here in a second. You will want to do this just because when you have two separate lines and you're trying to run the machine, this will make it much easier to keep everything under control. There we go. All right. Yay, we actually did it. So as you can see, now instead of dealing with two separate lines, we just have one. And you can actually just clean this up a little bit if you want when you're doing it, because this will tend to curl up on you and it makes it a lot easier. So there we go. Even for myself, this is not really all that difficult to do. Then what we want to do is we'll take our zip ties and gently secure the top of this here. We'll go back to this, gently secure this here without pinching it because we don't want to restrict the fluid supply. Then taking either a knife or clips, we can clip off the end of that and then do the same thing down here on our power supply side. This will just help hold everything in place like this. And we are done. So since we already have a power thing plugged in here, I'm going to put this off to the side and we'll reconnect this one here to this. So I have the brand new line and everything hooked up. Now what we'll do is we'll swap back over to the other camera here to show how to hook these up. And basically first what we can do is the power supply connects in and push in, and there is a screw connector that will lock it down so that it does not pull out. So we just want to make sure that's secured, and you'll see that the display comes on. Then we want to firmly and snugly push in the fluid supply line, and we're done. So right now, you can see if we push the button that the wheel's turning and we can hear the solenoid clicking on and off. So really we're ready to fill up with pre-treatment. And what I'm going to do is stick our pre-treat line into our solution. Take our cup from here. And the way you fill this up is you actually will be able to hear and see. Make sure you have your cup underneath of this, and you can see that it's not going to take very long. Basically, we are now filled with the pre-treatment. And we can double check by making sure we don't see any bubbles coming through the line of the pre-treatment here. But as you can see, we've got pre-treatment in this, and we're actually ready now to spray shirts. What I do recommend the first time you use this machine, it's easier to use, fill it with water. Don't jump right in and try and fill it with pre-treatment and everything. What I would recommend is use water, grab some old shirts, and play around a little bit to get used to the way that this functions. And what we'll do is we'll take our foam here and show you exactly how this does work. So I'll grab a shirt. And you'll notice that this foam, I believe it's about 18 by 24 inches. And what that will allow is the ability to lay the shirt out. We can then set our amount of pre-treatment that we want here on our touch screen. This is set at 80 right now, and I have it set at about 14. But what I'm going to do is bump this down to about 50, which on our chart, if we look at our handy dandy chart that I told you not to throw away, 15 at a 14-inch setting will be about 18 grams of pretreatment applied. So the way that you would do this is hold the Viper Mini by the handle and place it on the shirt. And you can let it go, line it up. You'll be able to see the center line is the center of your spray is going to be where your nozzle is. And it always starts spraying a couple inches out in front of the front wheels. So when we go to spray, all we're doing with our hand back here on this, where we're holding it, is to guide the shirt. And you can give a little bit of pressure to put this back wheel in contact with the shirt itself. So when we're ready to spray, all we need to do is hold the button. And that question that somebody asked earlier about, do we need this black sheathing? This would be why. If you didn't, you'd have two lines and they'd be flopping all over the place. This just makes it easier so that you can keep everything out of the way. And then we just start spraying. And we can spray as long as we want onto the shirts. So if you have a printer for whatever reason that can do super long print, you can keep spraying for as long as you need to. And as you can see, the spray itself is extremely uniform. And if we switch back, you can see it's very uniform all the way down the shirts. And that will be repeatable shirt after shirt after shirt. And that's the beauty of it. And we have gotten questions before. So the outside edge of this, outside edge is about 14 inches, which is right where we had this set. So what I always recommend is always try to go a little bit bigger than what you're actually going to be printing, because you need that room. You're going to be loading differently. You may have the spray off a little bit. That'll give you a little bit of a cushion. And that is the way to basically spray the shirt. Now, I can show you real quick. We can swap back over to another shirt and actually then do like a small left chest if we wanted to.
Brian, we have another question here.
Yeah.
What is the process for pre-treating both sides?
If you're going to pre-treat both sides, spray it, heat set it to cure the pre-treatment, spray the back, and then heat set it again. Now, some people will spray the front, heat set, and try to spray the back. I don't necessarily recommend that. If you're doing the front and the back, I would also recommend, if you can, thread your shirt onto the heat press, just for the sheer aspect that you're not pressing the pre-treatment and or ink that you've printed multiple times. So that would be my one recommendation there. All right, so if we want to go down to a much smaller spray pattern, we'll do that. And because we're lowering this down, we also need to increase the speed of the machine because the closer you are, the more you're applying the same amount of fluid, whether it's in a 6 or 7 inch wide area or a 20-inch area. So the lower you go at the same speed, you're going to actually be applying more pre-treatment per se to the equivalency of a 14 by 14 inch area. So we will bump up our speed here on this we'll go up to about 80 on this, and just position it over our pocket area and spray. Relatively quick, easy change. And if we wanted to, we could actually zoom right back out to a wider spray. And I'm just going to spray over top of this again, and boom. That's how quick and easy spray a different size area. So you could really, if you had, everybody always asks about volume. It's like, oh, well, I can spray more shirts faster with a machine or whatever, this and that. And it's like, you might be able to, but with this, you could stack up a couple of shirts, spray it, throw it off to the side. I don't recommend doing that. I recommend spraying your pre-treatment, then heat setting it. But if you had somebody there helping you, you could load your shirt up, spray it, pass it off, load your shirt, spray it, and pass it off.
Brian, we have another question. Are
Yes.
you able to stack shirts with this method?
Yeah, you can stack shirts. I wouldn't recommend stacking a boatload of them, but just for giggles, we're gonna let's just do this for fun and games. We'll go back up here to setting this back down a little bit. And you adjust your spray length simply by where you let off of the button. I always tell people, make sure you firmly press the button when you're ready to spray, because if you don't, you may or may not trigger all the functions correctly. So we'll just do a couple shirts here real quick. Boom. And shirts with wrinkles, that's bad. Make sure you have the wrinkles out. But as you can see, we can actually spray a lot of shirts really quick with this. So the argument I've heard about, oh, well, you can't do production with it. And as you just saw, I did 4 shirts in what, 20, 25 seconds, 30 seconds. I don't even know what it was. You can knock out a whole lot of shirts. Your problem is going to be curing that pre-treatment, and the heat press is going to be your biggest slowdown. If you had a conveyor dryer, you could do a conveyor dryer. Yes, you do have to eyeball and know how big you're going to be pre-treating, so you get the correct amount of length. But overall, the use of the Viper Mini in and of itself is quick and easy. I guess move that out of the way. I guess we could check to see if we have any other questions at this point in time. Mr. Moderator.
Yes, we do have one more question here.
Yeah.
Is there any need to squeegee after the pre-treatment has been applied?
That is actually going to be one of my research projects. Technically, I've heard the pros and cons both ways. If you're using a good quality shirt, you really should not need to do that. Now, where you're going to run into situations would be if you're maybe using a conveyor dryer, but you need to use a good quality shirt. What I've seen in my experience, even with running pre-treatment through a conveyor dryer, you're best to run it through just so it's still damp and then heat press it to get it to lay down all those fibers. You can do the same thing prior to printing, but depending on how much pre-treatment is applied, the quality of the shirt, a lot of times the pre-treatment can also help hold the fibers down because you are drying it with the heat press and under pressure. That will help trap a lot of those fibers. That's why when you have a shirt that has already been pre-treated, you don't want to manhandle it prior to printing. You want to try to treat those as gently as possible so you don't rough up any of the fibers, which will then show up in your white ink film. So hope that helps answer that question. And I think we may have another question or two here, possibly.
Another question here. Can you talk through the heat process after the pre-treatment is supplied?
Sure. You would always want to follow whatever pre-treatment you're using, the manufacturer's recommendations. For us, what I actually prefer is I always tell people use a good quality t-shirt. The reason for that is, one, you can typically get away using less pre-treatment, which lowers your cost for the shirt. Even though the shirt may cost more, the cost savings in ink and pre-treatment will typically outweigh it, and you'll have a better overall product. So that being said, after we've applied the pre-treatment, we want to load it onto the heat press or conveyor dryer and heat press it. For a lot of smaller shops, you're going to be using a heat press. I prefer the type that you can thread the shirt onto for a variety of reasons. That way you're not over pressing if you're doing a front and the back. You're not necessarily dual pressing the pre-treatment and inks on the side that you printed first. And I prefer also using a parchment type paper on the heat press. Now, if you can get more pressure, that typically will end up being better because you're flattening all the fibers. And with heat presses, it's typically time, temperature, and pressure. So depending on the amount of pre-treatment and how large the area is, typically you can cure the pre-treatment dry, and you, at least with our products, the Image Armor products, you want the pre-treatment on the shirt to be totally dry before you go to direct your actual printing process on your printer. So typically anywhere from 30 to 40, 45 seconds. I like to release the pressure halfway through and let the steam out so you're not trapping it. I have seen some heat presses in the past where the heating surface may be domed a little bit, so it traps a little bit of moisture within it, which is bad overall. And I don't necessarily recommend the Teflon sheets for curing the pre-treatment. That will, one, tend to shine everything up, and it tends to trap the moisture a little bit more. So that's what I would recommend as far as when using a heat press to dry the pre-treatment so that you can go directly to your direct-to-garment printer. Any others? Any other questions? Did we have anybody from Europe join us?
To follow up to that question,
Yes.
or the answer, heat settings.
Heat settings. Typically, we recommend about 330. You can cure the if you have one heat press, you can cure your pre-treatment at the same temperature as what you're curing your inks at. You mainly just want to get the pre-treatment dry. If you go with a higher temperature and a higher pressure, typically you'll be able to dry your pre-treatment quicker. So with that being said, you want to keep an eye on it because it can be a hassle unless you have two heat presses to swap between this temperature and pressure and what your inks require. So at least with the Image Armor pre-treatments, you can do that and get away without any real adverse issues, I guess you could say. So that would be my recommendation. That way you can be printing and pre-treating. So while you pre-treat one shirt, your printer can be printing, printer gets done, throw it on, heat cure the ink from the shirts, and you can be spraying your next shirt, etc. That way you can keep a production process going. Or if you want, you could just continue to do an assembly line thing and just pre-treat all of your shirts ahead of time and then just go straight into printing. I prefer to do the dual thing because otherwise you're still waiting on the heat press. And at least when you're printing and pre-treating, you're doing something at the same time. Now, you could say, hey, I've got to work on artwork while the printer's printing. That's fine too. Whatever works for your shop is what's going to be probably best for your shop.
One more question here. If you're not using Teflon sheets, what sheets should you use?
For curing of the pre-treatment, we will pull these both in. I typically like to use, this is just a standard parchment paper. I found it on Amazon. I think I got 5,000 sheets for like $50 or something like that. It was something crazy. This I like because it does allow, it's not necessarily a porous moisture trapping effect when you're heat pressing the pre-treatment dry. And you can typically use this a couple of times. So the cost per unit on this is really, really, really inexpensive. And how you cure your ink, you can use the Teflon to cure your ink. I actually prefer using like this craft paper, which we had gotten from a supplier. I don't care for the real shiny aspect of that Teflon does provide to the print. Some people love that look, so it really doesn't matter. As long as you're curing your ink correctly, you'll be good. You can use this, you can use your Teflon or other paper. Some people will even use the white parchment paper to cure the ink. You want to make sure you have the correct kind because the paper that we use for our pre-treatment, if we use that on ink, it will tend to pull up some of the ink off of the shirt, and you don't want that. So do we have any additional questions or comments of whatever? So I guess now would be the time. We appreciate everybody that has shown up. If you have any additional questions, we do have a few minutes here so that you can get back to your day.
One question here is,
Sure.
What is the height setting relative to on the slider?
Well, if we switch back to our thing here, we do have, there we go. We can see it a little bit better there. 14-inch, 16-inch, you can go higher. Most printers, you're not going to be spraying much. I mean, most designs, let's face it, it's more expensive the more ink you put down. So the bigger your print area, the more expensive that print's going to be. You can take this all the way up above the 16-inch mark and spray even wider than 16 inches. We've actually done up to 20 plus inches, which is wider than most direct-to-garment printers will ever do. So that would be the way that's set. We have it set for 7 inches, 14 and 16. And as you get used to using this and you find your standard print sizes that are, that you're doing for regular DTG type jobs, you typically probably will just have one height setting. It might be 14, 15 inches, somewhere in that range. It just depends on your printer. I know some printers have a smaller, narrower platen where others can go up to oversized 16 by 20 prints. The Viper Mini will be able to help you with all of those if you have a machine that can do bigger stuff.
And the line on, or the measurement lines on the side rail there, does that correlate to where the slider or the tip is?
This, that would be where the tip is. And actually the bottom of the slider is roughly right where, if I swap this back over, sorry. This tip is roughly right in line with the bottom of the slider. So you can use either or. It really is not difficult.
Another question here.
All right.
Do you have to use any safety gear like glasses or a mask because it's not an enclosed system?
I love that question in relation to closed systems. Probably the best example I can use is when you're spraying, quote, in an enclosed system. If you've ever seen a lot of them, pre-treatment still does get out of that box. So with that being said, when you're spraying fluid into an enclosed chamber, let's use this example. You have air as a fluid, you have your liquid as a fluid. You're spraying liquid into a chamber. Now, if this was a sealed balloon, that balloon would blow up. So you're actually creating a net positive flow or pressure point. And with a lot of the systems, because the way they spray, and we've put a lot of time and research into this, most of our past few machines have been open concepts. We were the first really to do an open concept pre-treatment machine because we've studied fluid dynamics and everything. And with the way our pumps are set up, you'll get a little bit of stuff all over, off the sides of the shirt. But if you actually look at the shirt when you spray it, there's very, very little on the outside edges of the shirt itself. So you're not going to have a lot of spray all over the place. Now, if you're using a hand sprayer, anybody that has used a hand sprayer knows I think it sort of related back to that first question was, can we do it outside? Yes. Now, remember, if there's a wind or a breeze, that potentially could affect your spray pattern off of the unit itself. But that's, I think, why a lot of those questions come up, is because Wagner power sprayers, I mean, it just sprays everywhere. So even with an enclosed unit, you're going to there's leaks in those units and it's going to go all over the place. Obviously, as a manufacturer, I am going to recommend that you would use safety goggles and a respirator. And that's just our standard CYA for that. I would not recommend, even because we've asked people ask about ventilation. I would not spray pre-treat in an enclosed, sealed off bedroom, or even do your direct-to-garment printing in a sealed bedroom. Just because when you heat press a shirt, you're also getting dye and chemical burn off from that shirt. And anybody that has done any screen printing knows that when you run shirts through a conveyor dryer, it's just burning stuff off those shirts left and right. Well, you have the same issue with heat presses. And if you're in an enclosed space, you could start getting a haze. And if you've been in a screen printing shop, as Dean shakes his head, you will get a haze in there. So you need good airflow. That is highly recommended. So yes, safety first.
Brian, are you able to demonstrate the cleaning process once you're all done for the day?
Yeah.
And also, part of that cleaning process, you can save some of the pre-treat, right?
Correct. So I will pull our container over here a little bit to show how to do this. So you can see here with our pre-treatment, I actually had two in here. End of the day, I just pulled this out. So when this is out and we turn on the machine itself and we put our spray cup underneath of it, it's going to suck air through the system and you'll hear a change in it. Hopefully you were able to hear that. And that means that you have all the pre-treatment saved. So I could dump this back into my container because it's uncontaminated. As long as you didn't have anything like water or junk in this spit cup. Then basically I would take and place this back into my water supply and press the button again to flush it. So you could see from the time that it took to drain it, it was probably 15, 20 seconds, maybe on the high side. Then it's just going to be a matter of how long it takes you to swap out to clean fresh water and then flush it again. So, and then you can leave the water in, or you can just pull the line out of the water itself and then flush it again. And typically that takes 60 seconds or less when you're doing that. Again, you want to make sure that you keep your machines clean. It just will make them last a lot longer and give you less hassle.
Can you put cleaning solution in the machine?
Yeah. Yep. We can actually, that's what I was saying earlier. We can use our image armor cleaning solution like once a week, I would recommend. And after you pull your pre-treatment out, you can flush this through, then flush the water through the system so that you don't leave the cleaning solution in the pre-treatment machine. This can, if it dries up, it can like gum up some of the check valves and stuff like that. So you don't want to leave it sit in there or flush it and just flush it and leave air in the system because it will leave a little bit of a residue. That's why you want to make sure that you flush it out with water after you're done. But it is recommended to do that at least once a week if you're heavily using the machine. If you don't use the machine at all, you don't have to worry about it.
For the nozzle, it's a quick release nozzle, but do you need an ultrasonic machine to clean that?
If you flush it correctly and you use, occasionally if you need to use the toothbrush to clean it off, you really shouldn't need to. Most of the time when you need an ultrasonic cleaner is when you leave pre-treatment dry on it or you leave pre-treatment in the machine and it starts gumming it up. That's when you're going to run into issues. So do you technically need one? No. Why do we give you a secondary one? In case you forget and you do something that you shouldn't, like clean the unit and it gums up on the spray tip itself, you've got a backup. And I recommend always having a backup of these on hand, henceforth why we include extras in our kits when you buy the pre-treat machine.
On a tip that is quote unquote clogged or not performing correctly, can that be cleaned?
That depends. I've seen some really nasty pre-treatment stuff that's hard as a rock and you will never get it clean. But typically most of the time, if it's not too bad, you can just take your spray tip, rinse your toothbrush under some hot water or running water, and just gently brush the surface of the tip. And you take the tip out, it's easier to do, and you can actually run it under hot water while you're doing that. And if you hold it up to the light when there's no water in it, you should be able to see a real nice uniform shape to it. If you see like it looks like something's clogged in it, you're going to have issues. Never, ever, 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 and I can't say that enough, ever stick something in the spray tip. These are laser fashioned tips typically. You go, I don't care if it's a toothpick, I don't care if it's a piece of floss. You're going to screw up the way that spray tip applies the pretreatment. And instead of a real nice spray pattern like this, it may be spraying like this. So never, ever, ever, ever stick anything in a spray tip to quote unquote try and clean it. I've had people tell me, oh, we didn't do that. And they send us a spray tip and I put it under a microscope and we saw wood chips from a toothpick lodged on the tip. It was microscopic, but we could see it. So don't ever do that. And the tips aren't that expensive. If you have it, and it is a consumable. So bear that in mind. Always, this is your safety net right here. This will keep you typically from being down and not being able to print shirts. I don't know how many times we've gotten emergency phone calls. Oh, I need the next day air spray tip because they screwed up a tip or whatever. And then they spend a fortune on it. Ounce of prevention, and we include that in with the Viper Mini to get you started. So.
And as far as the water goes, tap water or diluted water or not diluted?
Yeah, if you have really, really nasty water, you want to use distilled water. You could use hot tap water typically, but if you have a lot of calcium buildup in your pipes or whatever, it all depends on how good your water is. I would not recommend using it if you live someplace where you can smell sulfur and you can light your water on fire type of a thing. That would be bad. Distilled water is always a safe bet. But yeah, like I said, you typically know how your water is, if it's too hard or not. I don't necessarily recommend either leaving the water in the system because if it is nasty water, you never know what it's going to do. So when in doubt, use distilled. So I think we're at about our 1 hour mark, and I will let Dino here announce our winner for the gallon of pre-treatment, which we have either ultra, we have light, and we also have our dark. So the winner will be able to pick what one they want, and our grand winner of the pre-treatments for the day.
I just ran a random name generator here based on our attendance, and we have a Michelle Bonavin. I hope I said that correctly. Congrats, awesome. Michelle.
Appreciate it, Michelle. Dean will be in touch with you via email or giving you a phone call, and we will get all of your shipping information and everything so that we can get you out your choice of pre-treatment.
Last question, Brian.
Uh-oh.
Probably the most important.
Okay.
Availability and price.
Availability, that is a good question. I guess we should have talked about that. Just slipped my mind. Availability, we do have these in stock and ready to ship. You can order today. If you go to vipermini.com, you can actually see additional videos and information on the unit itself. And if you click under, I believe we have a sales page that shows our current distribution network that is selling it. So you may have already purchased your DTG printer from one of our current suppliers. It is also available directly for sale on our website. We strongly encourage our customers to work with their local distributors. But if you don't have one, you can buy direct through the vipermini.com website.
With shipping available to Europe?
We actually have a couple of units that are being tested right now in Europe, and we hope to do that. But I'm sure that we probably could ship directly from Europe. Um, if you want, you can contact us at the sales at igrouptech.com website. And I'm sure Jerry can take care of that for you. Now that the big question is what is the price on this? The list price on this is $14.95. Originally it was $16.95. But what all of our distributors are selling this at is $1,495. And that comes with everything that we showed you that we pulled out of the box. So hope that answers all the questions. Do we have any additional ones? Looks like we don't have any additional questions. So I want to thank everybody for attending the seminar. This will be posted again online later. So if you missed part of it, you'll be able to see the whole video from start to end. And if you have any additional questions, you can call us at 877-673-4378, excuse me, or email us at sales@igrouptech.com. That's the letter I, group, TECH.com. Thank you very much. And we look forward. We will be doing a lot more of these webinars on pretreatments, our other pretreat machines, and just a variety of different things. So stay tuned to our websites, and we appreciate you stopping by today to check out the new Viper Mini.
Thank you, everybody, for watching, and congrats to Michelle. Appreciate you watching. Once again, you can go to vipermini.com if you'd like to purchase. We do ask you to support your local distributors. And yeah, we hopefully will be doing quite a few of these webinars from time to time. Appreciate everybody for tuning in.